Hey, what's going on, fight fans? Alex Miner here with another episode of AFMMA Analysis. This weekend, November 3rd, Saturday, UFC 230. Daniel Cormier versus Derrick Lewis. Really big fight. Really big card altogether. A lot of big fights on this card, and just wanted to go over them. So I'm just gonna jump right into it. One of the first fights that I'm really interested in this one is Roxanne Modafferi and Sijara Eubanks. So Sijara Eubanks has been in the media a lot recently because she was going to fight Valentina Shevchenko for the 125 flyweight title, seeing as Nico Montano had to drop out of the fight with Valentina Shevchenko due to, I guess, heart issues. It seemed like she was having a lot of complications before, and that's why it took so long for the fight between Nico Montano and Shevchenko to come together. But it seemed like she was coming back a little too soon due to pressure from the UFC, and when she had to pull out, the UFC ultimately stripped her. Don't necessarily agree with it that much, but you do need the division to move on. I mean, this fight has been scheduled once before, if not twice before, and it was always meant for Valentina Shevchenko to come in and fight for the belt anyway, even though Nico Montano was the first champion coming out of the Ultimate Fighter. It was always, the weight class is meant for Shevchenko. She's a beast. She was fighting at the top of 135, only woman that was really neck and neck with Amanda Nunes in their fights. 125 was made for her, and it's kind of the same situation that there was with Cyborg. Whenever Jermaine Durandamy won the belt from Holly Holm in the inaugural 145 title fight, it was always meant for Cyborg to come and fight, and when Jermaine Durandamy she refused to fight Cyborg, most likely out of fear, because Cyborg is the most feared fighter, period, in the sport. They stripped her of the title, and Cyborg fought another person for the belt, and that's exactly what was happening this time. Montano couldn't show up for the fight due to health issues, and they found a replacement in Sijara Eubanks for UFC 230. The fight between Sijara Eubanks and Valentina Shevchenko, however, was eventually dropped because there was just a lot of backlash at first, that being the main event in Madison Square Garden coming over the fight between Nate Diaz and Dustin Poirier. It just didn't really make sense for that to be the main event. Valentina Shevchenko is a great fighter, however, Sijara Eubanks is relatively unknown by a lot of people. I know Sijara Eubanks because I've watched every single season of The Ultimate Fighter, and I know that she's a very good 125er. She was actually supposed to be the one that was supposed to fight Nico Montano in the Ultimate Fighter finale for the belt. However, she had to drop out due to complications with making weight, which she had issues on the show as well. She's a thickly muscled fighter for the 125 division, and it gave her a lot of trouble, and it's continued to. Roxanne Modafferi stepped in to fight Nico Montano in the finale after Roxanne Modafferi actually lost the decision to Sijara Eubanks, but I'll get into that. Like I said, that fight was eventually dropped between Sijara Eubanks and Valentina Shevchenko, and then Shevchenko was given the fight with Joanna Jędrzejczyk for the title, like they were talking about before, and DC versus Derrick Lewis was put at the top. So then Sijara Eubanks, she made a big stink about it. She was on Twitter talking about Dana White making the UFC a carnival or a shit show, a circus, whatever, and she was really pissed off about losing that fight. Understandable because she had it scheduled. However, considering the fact that her professional record is 3-2. She kind of came out of nowhere with that fight, and she did blow her first shot at the title. She can't really be. She doesn't really have too much ground to be that mad with the UFC. But yeah, so she got the fight. She got pushed down into the card, and she got a replacement fight with Roxanne Modafferi, who she faced before, like I said, in a semifinal of the Ultimate Fighter season. It was a really good fight between the two. The striking exchange is pretty close. I'd say that Roxanne Modafferi was a little more technical. She was tagging. She was tagging Eubanks a lot more. Her hands were a lot more crisp and sharp, and she was a lot more accurate. And she's also had a much better lateral movement. Whereas Sijara Eubanks was just coming forward, trying to land with power shots, and often whiffing. And when she did land, it was hard. However, she didn't land very well with her hands, not very often. She actually had much better success with the kicks on the feet, whereas Roxanne Modafferi doesn't really have too much power or dexterity in her hip flexors. Not much of a kickboxer. But the difference in the fight ended up being Sijara Eubanks wrestling, taking Modafferi down several times, landing big shots from top. Yeah. But yeah, Sijara Eubanks, she is a powerful kickboxer and a very good jiu-jitsu practitioner. And like I said, she has the better wrestling pedigree of the two. Whereas Roxanne Modafferi is mainly a jiu-jitsu specialist, but she also has some good hands when she needs to use them. Interesting fight. Like I said, the first one was very close. And Roxanne Modafferi has improved. We've seen her in the octagon since then, and she definitely has improved. Sijara Eubanks we have not seen in the octagon since then. So we'll see how everything has translated, or how everything has progressed over the years. But also, Sijara Eubanks once again has missed weight for this fight. So, in light of everything that she's been saying recently, a lot of people have come down on her for not only just trashing the UFC, but then out of all that, she comes out and misses weight again. Not a good look for her, but maybe she can redeem herself in the fight. The next fight I'm going to talk about is Israel Adesanya versus Derrick Brunson. It is the first fight of the main card. Yeah, Israel Adesanya, he's had a microscope lens on him ever since he came to the UFC. He's known as one of the better kickboxers that's ever been in the sport, and he's exemplified it since he came in. He's on a 3-fight win streak since he's been in the UFC in the past, I'd say 9 or 8 months. Just took out Brad Tavares most recently. I believe it was a decision fight, but it was a pretty dominant performance by Israel Adesanya. And yeah, so now he's coming up against Derrick Brunson, a much higher ranked opponent. Derrick Brunson has been at the top of the heat in the 185 division for a while. Very good wrestler. He's the only guy that I've seen out wrestle Yoel Romero, who's a silver medalist in the Olympics. So very impressive, his wrestling pedigree. He also has a lot of power. The thing is though, whenever he does get to throwing hands, he is often leaving his chin straight in the air. And he is known to get caught. I believe it was his last fight that he got knocked out by Jacare Souza, getting head kicked and then put to sleep afterwards. So it's a very dangerous fight for both. Israel Adesanya is known for his striking. However, he is a skilled jiu-jitsu practitioner as well. I believe he's a blue belt at this point. However, he's pretty slick. In his first fight, we saw him do some rolls out of takedowns, and I don't know how well that will work against the wrestler the level of a Derrick Brunson. Derrick Brunson is a very high level wrestler. So we'll have to see how he deals with that. He's going to have to come with some great takedown defense, and if he can't stop it, he needs to roll with the momentum like he's done before and come back out on top. Because I'm not sure if his bottom game will be able to get him a victory. However, he has said that when he wins this fight, it's going to be done by either knockout or submission within 2 rounds. So obviously, he is confident in his jiu-jitsu. However, like I said, Brunson, in the striking exchange, he's very vulnerable. Although he throws a lot of power and can knock you out with one hit, Israel Adesanya is not going to be there for that. He is very good controller of distance, uses that range and that jab hand to measure very well and keep fighters off. And he's just, like I said, he's a sniper with his kicks, his punches, everything. So if Derrick Brunson leaves his chin open for a split second, he can be put out. But yeah, very big opportunity for Israel Adesanya to rise even further. If he beats Derrick Brunson in impressive fashion, he may even be in talks for title contention, being in the UFC for less than a year and already being on a 4-fight win streak, taking out one of the top 10 guys. So yeah, we'll see how that fight goes. It's very interesting. A lot of people are going to have their eyes on Israel Adesanya because he also has a very big personality. So that'll be a great one to watch. In the third fight of the main card, we had David Branch versus Jared Cannonier. David Branch was originally supposed to fight Jacare Souza in this fight. However, Jacare Souza was bumped up after Luke Rockhold fell out of the fight with Chris Weidman. So David Branch was left with he was left to find a replacement, and in came Jared Cannonier. Jared Cannonier is making his debut at 185. He was fighting at 205 not that long ago. I remember he had a fight. He replaced somebody and came in and fought Teixeira not that long ago, Glover Teixeira. I think he lost that fight, and I think he lost at least 1 or 2 more afterwards. And he's finally made his debut at 185. However, he's a very powerful kickboxer. Definitely can put guys out. I've seen his power on display, so it will be an interesting fight. David Branch, on the other hand, very technical, very good boxing. He nearly knocked out Luke Rockhold in their fight, but eventually got caught whenever he got taken down and was put under the extreme pressure of Luke Rockhold's. David Branch is also a high-level black belt in jiu-jitsu, so he's much more of a well-rounded fighter than Jared Cannonier. And considering Jared Cannonier is a newcomer to the division, he's kind of untested, and we're not sure how he's going to perform at 185. So I'm leaning towards David Branch, definitely, especially seeing as David Branch has so much experience in the game. He's coming from World Series of Fighting, where he was a double champion in the 205 and 185 division. So I feel like this will be just another win under his belt, and then he'll get a fight against maybe the winner or the loser of one of the other 85ers on this card. So yeah, good fight. In the co-main event of the night, we have Chris Weidman versus Jacare Souza. Very good matchup. It's one that I've been waiting on for a very long time. Both have been in the top 5 of the division for a very, very extended period of time, and somehow have never fought one another. Jacare Souza, very dangerous. He is a world-class jiu-jitsu practitioner. He's been the world champion on several occasions, and is just known as one of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners, best grapplers to ever compete in the UFC. He is also a very powerful boxer. He keeps a tight guard, not the loosest boxer, pretty tight, rigid sometimes, However, he lands with a lot of power and is dangerous on the feet as well. He also has some good kicks, head kicks, that he throws every now and then. Um, Chris Weidman. Chris Weidman is much more well known for his high level wrestling. He also has a high level jiu-jitsu pedigree as well. He trains under Matt Serra, of course, over there at Serra Longo. He has some decent striking as well. But he's also pretty tight in his striking. The matchup of the two, I definitely think that Souza is better in his jiu-jitsu considering his credentials. When it comes to the stand-up grappling exchange, Souza is more of a judo guy, high-level judo. However, I think Chris Weidman will probably have the advantage in just controlling due to his wrestling pedigree. However, I think if he takes it to the ground, he's playing with fire. Even though he is very good in his jiu-jitsu as well, I just don't think he wants to mix up on the ground with Souza. I also think that Souza is a little more dangerous than him on the feet as well with his power. However, Chris Weidman is younger. He's a little more athletic. Probably has a better gas tank as well. So Chris Weidman's youth could get in this fight. Jacare is 38 years old. However, I do think he is all around the more skilled fighter. Very good fight. It's been a long time coming. Also, Chris Weidman, even though he is coming off of a win against Kelvin Gastelum, it was very hard fought. He kind of got it by the skin of his teeth. He was losing that fight, almost got knocked out in the first round, and he eventually got that head and arm. However, he utilized his strength a lot in that fight. Kelvin Gastelum was a lot smaller. And before that fight, he had been knocked out brutally, like 3 times, I believe. His chin is quite questionable these days, and even though he said he has regained some confidence after beating Kelvin Gastelum, you just don't know how he's going to come into this fight. And if you let Jacare Souza put that hand on your chin, it's going to be a short night. So I'm leaning towards Jacare Souza in this fight. However, it could go either way. They both are very highly skilled and 2 of the best 185ers in the division. And finally, of course, we have Daniel Cormier versus Derrick Lewis. A lot of people think that this fight shouldn't have happened. They definitely put this fight together mainly to save the 230 card. They needed the main event. Like I said before, Sijara Eubanks and Valentina Shevchenko went over horribly, so it was scrapped. And then Nate Diaz and Dustin Poirier fell out because Poirier got injured, so they definitely needed somebody to come in and save the card. Daniel Cormier, being a company man, came in and did it. I'm sure he got a lot of money to do it. And the same thing for Derrick Lewis. Derrick Lewis just fought a month ago against Alexander Volkov in a hard-fought fight. He was getting beat throughout the whole fight, but came out in the last minute of the fight and knocked him out. And even said after the fight that his lack of cardio, would make it stupid for him to go right into a championship fight, but that's exactly what happened. And from what Derrick Lewis has said and what we can all just assume, that he's getting paid very well to come in and save his card as well and fight Daniel Cormier. However, he's made it very clear that he's not coming to fight for the belt. He's coming to fight to make the money. He wants to feed his kids. He actually just got a big sponsorship from Popeyes due to the little comical back and forth between him and Daniel Cormier at a press conference a long time ago about him protecting Popeyes' honor whenever Cormier made that video about all about that cake and chicken crap. But yeah. Like I said, people don't think Derrick Lewis deserves this. However, he is the number 2 ranked heavyweight. Even though he's not a traditionally skilled mixed martial artist, he's much more of a brawler. He's even said himself that he's not a mixed martial artist. He's just much more of a fighter. He's had tremendous success. The only guy who's beaten him in the UFC so far is Mark Hunt, I believe, and everyone else was beating him, but he just has a ton of heart and he never gives up. Even though he's a big guy, he's quite athletic. He says that he doesn't train that much, and he may not. He may actually train 30 minutes a day, like he says. Who knows? He's kind of a crazy dude. However, he said he's ramped up his training to about 3 hours or so. Who knows whether he's joking or being serious. But the X factor in this fight is always that power he has in his hands. Like I said in the last fight, Volkov was beating him the entire fight, but he stayed in range and he got caught with the right hand, dropped, and then got put to sleep. The same thing very well could happen to Cormier. However, everybody is writing Lewis off because of how good Cormier is. Cormier is in the talks for one of the greatest of all time. He's only lost twice in his career, officially once, both times to John Jones, arguably the greatest of all time. Everyone else, he's beaten handedly. The only other one that's been close was him and Gustafsson, and he came back and won that fight like a champion he is. He's much more well-rounded, and the biggest thing on his side is his world-class Olympic-level wrestling. If you're a power striker and you get put on your back, you really can't land too many powerful shots from there. It's negated at that point, and we can only assume that's what's going to happen. Lewis is a lot bigger, but that doesn't really matter to Daniel Cormier. He's very strong, despite the size difference. We've seen him put humongous guys in their heads before, like Josh Barnett, who is actually a very high-level grappler. So we just know that Derrick Lewis is going to get flopped at some point in this fight. However, Derrick Lewis is known to just stand up out of the grounded position whatever he wants to, just due to how strong he is. However, also, Cormier said that if he does the same thing, tries to bench him off, he'll just take an arm, which he very well may, because Cormier doesn't move like the rest of these heavyweights. He's a smaller frame, and he moves much more quickly. He's a lot more explosive, and he can do things like that. But yeah, I'm going to go with the rest of the people saying that DC is most likely going to win this fight because, like I said, he can control where the fight goes. He's already beaten humongous power strikers. He beat the most fearsome knockout artist there's ever been in the UFC, in my opinion, in Anthony Johnson twice, who is much more athletic, much more speedy, much more well-rounded. So yeah, if he can handle him, I think he can handle Lewis, who's a little less skilled. However, unlike Anthony Rumble Johnson, Lewis never gives up. So yeah, DC, he's expected to win this fight. If he doesn't, he said that he'll just go down and defend his belt at 205. I don't know if that'll work, seeing as Gus and Jones are already scheduled to fight one another, but you never know. Derrick Lewis wins this fight, that'll turn the heavyweight division on the top of their head, and it'll be the biggest underdog victory there's ever been, just about. So yeah, that'll be a great fight as well. Also, there was the press conference for UFC 232, November 2nd. It was Jones and Gustafsson and Cyborg and Amanda Nunes on the panel. Very interesting. The fans love seeing Jones back. There was some good back and forth between him and Gustafsson. Gustafsson talking about how he won the first fight. Jones calling him delusional, talking about all the other fights that he lost and asking him if he thought he won those. At the end of the fight, or at the stare down, Jones stepped in front of Gus, and then Gus stepped in front of him. to get in front of the cameras, and then Jones shoved Gustafson, and they had a heated stare down. Cyborg and Amanda Nunes. Cyborg is obviously still just annoyed with the whole thing about Amanda Nunes calling her out, with both of them being Brazilians, and then wanting to take 9 months to train. Cyborg wanted to fight her right away. Cyborg doesn't like to sit out for very long. She likes to stay busy, and she was pissed off about that, and she let it be known. And she was telling Amanda Nunes, just be there at UFC 232, make weight, and just show up because she's ready to fight. Amanda Nunes is too. Both phenomenal fights, showcasing two of the best fighters ever, Cyborg and John Jones. John Jones, of course, had his hardest fight ever against Gustafson. Could have gone either way. The difference in that fight, Gustafson had much better boxing. He was taking Jones down. However, Jones apparently didn't train that much for that fight. He was just coming into fights with the confidence of beating so many guys before, still partying and everything like that. So this time around, I think it'll be different. I think Jones, who has been training a lot of boxing in his time off, will come back and look very good. If he doesn't start to dominate in Gustafson's own discipline like he's done to other fighters before, he's at least going to be able to defend much better than he did last time and turn it into his fight. He's going to use his weapons and negate Gustafson's. Yeah, I think that's how that fight will most likely go. Cyborg versus Amanda Nunes. They're both very powerful. However, Cyborg, of course, has the strength and power advantage. Nunes is definitely going to have to stay on her bike and land hard shots whenever Cyborg gets close. However, Cyborg has had hard boxing sessions with boxing champions, and she doesn't back down no matter how much she is hitting her face. So it'll be a very hard fight for Amanda Nunes. However, as we know, Amanda Nunes is one of the hardest female punchers there is in the sport. So very interesting champion versus champion fight. The biggest fight in female UFC MMA history, in my opinion. Two of the best women ever. Very powerful, very dangerous, and very skilled in both Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu. And just a lot of knockout power between the two. So a very, very great fight. Great press conference. And yeah, so that's about all I had to say, guys. A lot of stuff going on, and I'm very excited for the fights this weekend. Very excited for 232 as well. But as always, I will be covering the fights, UFC 230, on my Twitter at AFMMA, sorry. And yeah, check it out, guys. Check out the commentary. Have a good one.